How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the show. RHMax.tv. Got a deep dive coming at you today. Excited for this one. Got a lot of questions. The team has been building for a while on this one as well, and very excited to get into it. Going to be very technical. Going to start out hopefully at a high level to get you to understand how the different pieces flow, what they are of the different Pulsechain and ecosystem. Validator X, LPX is the main focus of today. And yeah, if you're interested in these products, interested in protocols on Pulsechain, this is your chance to ask questions, and we're going to go through the whole thing. So without further ado, I want to save plenty of time for the stream. Welcome back to the show, Dave. We got Bass and Doc. How's it going, gents?
Excellent. Right. Thank you for having us on. Really appreciate it, RH.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have been building, and I kind of want to do some intros in a minute too, because I know I've had Dave on before. I think you guys were at the conference though, presenting as well. But just for people who aren't familiar, I want to do a little bit of intros. But just for everyone watching, like these guys have been building for quite a while now. And correct me if I'm wrong, I haven't seen any rugs, haven't seen anything go to zero, haven't seen a lot of bad stuff come out, just seen a lot of building. So it's I don't know. Let me know if you have any constructive criticism. But so far, you guys have been building a lot of products that people like to use from what I've seen so far.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, let me introduce the three of us that are here. I'm Dave. I'm also known as the professor. I'm a retired mathematician. Haunted got a hold of me back when he was, in his liquid loans days, and we were all talking around. And I came on and said, hey, that I like the message you're giving. His message was about giving back to the community and not taking. And so I joined him up and with the launch of UpToken, and from there it's evolved into a Pulsechain ecosystem. And on our team with us here, we have Doc is here today, as well as Boss. And Boss is our resident AI bot building genius. You want to dive into the blockchain and find something? I mean, that's what Boss does. And Doc, he's a magician when it comes to UI structure and security and some of those issues. So we're here to help you understand what we're building over here at Pulsechain ecosystem, and give you all the information we can about how you can help yourself and help Pulsechain grow to become the #1 layer 1 in all of crypto.
Yeah, and it's a lot of people, it's easy, I guess, these days to become jaded or nihilistic and like, I don't want to do another protocol. Is it safe? Is it going to take my funds? I don't want to lose my course. And I get the sentiment too. I get it too. There's been plenty of, I imagine there's plenty of reactions where it's like, okay, another thing. They're going to make sure I'm going to lose my money, or it's going to go to zero or something. That I think that's, again, the red candle syndrome. That's a lot of like, hey, there's plenty of different red flags of projects. We've seen things, not work out and all that stuff too through time. But Pulsechain, if you think of it as a city, you think of people building, making a product, maybe something you like, maybe you won't like. There's got to be this, I think, especially technical stuff like this, I like to dig into it, see the tech. Is it good for Pulsechain? You can decide that stuff too, but give it again, these guys have been around for years now. It's like they just showed up like 2 days ago. Like, hey, we got a new token. You want to buy it? It's not like that. So I think that's what gives me a little bit more confidence in at least talking about the projects and seeing what they have to offer as well. So excited. Thank you for building on Pulsechain. I definitely want to get that through root as well.
Yeah. We're not here to sell you a token. We're here to show you a way to earn more money. Let the tokens you love earn you a yield. And Boss, go ahead and give them a little background there, brother.
Yeah, I was like trust builders on Pulsechain, and it all started with the UpToken. Back then, I wasn't around then yet, but UpToken was even launched before Pulsechain launched. It launched on Ethereum. So I think we can say we've been the first project launched on Pulsechain, basically, because we were actually preparing before the launch. So we've been working and building like for a long time, and we started with the UpToken and the UpX token. And like you said, Dave, we've been involved with the umbrella name of Pulsechain, and we have launched this year Validator X, and Validator X is been grown to the #1 liquid staking protocol on Pulsechain in a very short time, with in total of over 3,500 validators, and we're running more with our Up and UpX systems as well. And now we've launched the new protocol, which is LPX, and LPX is basically market making tool brought to decentralized exchanges.
And we're here to share with you what LPX is all about. And if you want a little information about our liquid staking protocol, Validator X, we're willing to do that also. But I think today is the main focus is LPX.
Yeah, we'll get into Validator X a little bit as well. I know you got at least maybe a couple slides on it. But again, Chad, if you have questions, get them in. We're going to go through a lot. I got a lot of questions. We can bring up the slides and we can ask a little bit from there too. But I really want to set the framing of like, why would people use this? What options are there out there? Is this a fork of something? Is it brand new? A lot of that I want to get into too. But I'll, if you're ready on the slides,
Yeah, absolutely. We're ready to go. Give you the startup and let us really kind of introduce ourselves and what we're trying to do over here at Pulsechain. Okay. So if you're sharing screen for me, there you go. So yeah, this is kind of our parallel economy on Pulsechain. You know, we have a mission. We just want to create the best in class tools that enable individuals and communities to prosper. We want Pulsechain to win. That's what we're about. And you know, we have a lot of builders on Pulsechain who are doing some very creative things, and we think we're bringing something that maybe nobody else is bringing to Pulsechain. Yes, there are other liquid staking protocols out there, but ours is not a fork. We built this from the ground up, and we are the #1 liquid staking token in Pulsechain. This is the team. Artem is our CEO, market maker. Haunted started this whole thing off by gathering us all together. That I'm Dave, boss is here, Doc's here, and Jay Gold's our marketing guy. And if you wanna introduce yourself to Jay Gold and the rest of the team, we have an X stream tomorrow at this same time, and we're gonna go through LPX and an X stream where everybody can kind of have a little more freedom to jump in and talk to us. But we do have Validator X. Doc, you want to talk to him real quick about some of the stats on Validator X before we get into LPX?
Sure thing. So we recently became the #1 source of validators on the entire chain. Pulsechain is running more validators than any other node operator on the chain. With our internal systems and our public Validator X validators, we're running 4,575 validators right now. So there's some nice public viewing websites like PLS Charts, where if you go to that website, you can actually see a ranking of people running validators. So the website shows us in the #2 spot, and that is because it's only looking at the Validator X validators in that #2 spot, which is our liquid stakers. But we have 977 approximately validators that are also running in our internal sets. So when you combine them, we are running the most validators on the chain. So it's somewhere around 146.5 billion pulse that's staked in our systems.
And just to give people,
give us a little idea about the yield that we're giving with our system.
Yeah. So with the public Validator X liquid staking, since inception, it's right around 22%. And obviously, this is something that fluctuates with the activity on the chain. When the activity on the chain spikes, the APRs shoot up. And, you know, when you validate as a group, it really amplifies your ability to earn good validator rewards, because if you're solo validating, you know, you might be a large player and you might be running a couple hundred validators, or if you're not that large, maybe you're running 10, 15. And the chances of you building a block as a solo validator is obviously much less versus when you've pooled all of this pulse together as a group, because the frequency at which we build blocks by grouping together is just amplified tenfold. And every time we build a block, the rewards from that, 91% of those rewards are released to the stakers, and that includes the block reward, the attestation yield, as well as the sync committee yield. 91% of all three of those pillars go to the stakers, and 9% is retained as a protocol fee to keep everything up and running. But that 91% immediately gets compounded back into more and more validators, which is how we're growing so many validators day after day.
real Real
Yep,
quick
go
to
ahead.
just get people framing, sorry to interrupt, but I just want to make sure everyone's like kind of understanding about the validators. If you're new to validating, you can use the deposit contract with Pulsechain, same as Ethereum, all that stuff to spin up a validator, 13 million PLS, all that stuff. Or you can use different protocols built on Pulsechain and Ethereum stuff as well. Validator X is one of those where you can basically delegate. How would you explain it? You delegate your Pulse, you enter. Is there a minimum number?
Nope. You can come in with, obviously you want to make it worthwhile for the gas fee to make the deposits, but you could come in with a couple thousand Pulse or a couple 100 million Pulse or 1 billion, whatever you want. And you're just staking it into the liquid staking protocol. And after a 48-hour cooldown period that our system has, you come back to the DApp and you can claim your receipt token, which is called UPLS. And that represents your staked Pulse. You can then transfer that UPLS receipt token to a wallet of your choosing, or you could actually deploy it into LPX, which we're going to be touching on here soon. But that allows you to be liquid with your staked Pulse and earning yield all the way along.
Yeah, so again, you can do solo validating, you can spin up your own hardware, cloud, all that stuff. You can do a number of validators there, 32 million per. Or again, the option for a lot of people too who aren't technical, who want to offload it. And again, you're using Validator X contracts versus the native contracts on the chain. You're using a different protocol, all that stuff to do it. You can do no minimum, so much Pulse, put it in there, and it gives you a receipt, and you can collect fees from there. And the main advantage too is that you can earn more because it is staked and pooled and all that. I guess is it for your proportion in the pool, you earn the fees. Like your receipt is kind of like your LP tokens. Is that the analogy? When you pull them out, you'll have that much. You have the rights to that much of it.
Your receipt token represents the amount of Pulse you staked, right? So whenever you go in and you stake Pulse, if you wait you have to wait 48 hours to claim. So that means if you came in and you staked 50 million Pulse and you came back 2 days later and you unstaked, you are going to be getting more Pulse than what you originally deposited because the rewards are coming in every hour, basically. So the UPLS rate is always climbing against Pulse because the rewards just keep getting compounded back in. I hope I'm making sense there. And I do want to touch on one more thing about Validator X, but if you have any more questions, shoot.
I have one question just on the internal. Can you explain why this isn't showing more validators? You mentioned internal validators.
If you actually scroll down on a website like PLS Charts, you'll see 2 other validator sets that are run by PlusX. One is called Up and the other is called UpX. Those are internal systems that we have running where portions of the PLS yield from the validator rewards are directed at buying and burning both the Up and UpX tokens. So those are what we mean by internal sets. There's an internal set that takes rewards and buys Up token, and there's an internal set that takes rewards and buys the UpX tokens.
Yeah, you went past it. We have.
I saw BW.
I'm sorry. Yeah, BW and BWX, correct.
Yes.
Yeah. The BW is the one that takes portions of the yield and buys the Up token, and the BWX takes portions of the yield and buys.
One has about 116 somewhere in there. You'll see it. Yeah, 119 now, and the other one's around 800. 858.
Was that so it's doing validators? Wasn't if my history on Up and UpX serves me, wasn't it originally for using liquid loans and the switch to validators for how did that work?
Well, yeah, correct. We still have several vaults over there in the liquid loan system, several billion Pulse. I forget the number, but it's
about 14.5, 15 billion Pulse sitting over in vaults. We have 4 vaults, and as the price of Pulse goes up, we'll leverage those, take loans, and then add to the Pulse we own. Buy Pulse with about 40% of that. 40% of that goes to buying and burning the Up and UpX. So yeah, there's a leverage play with liquid loans. We also have the validator play with some of our treasury, and those are the 2 main sources of where our treasury is allocated, so that we can grow our buy and burn for our finite supply tokens. But Validator X You don't have to own Up or UpX to do either one of the protocols. Validator X is a volunteer process. You want to earn additional yield on your Pulse. You can either, go, as you said, get your own hardware and spool up your own validator at your house, or you can join one of the liquid staking pools. And our liquid staking pool has the trust of the community. You can see how many validators we're running. And the reason they trust us is because we're giving the best yield of the liquid validators on Pulsechain. Our yield is by far the biggest. In fact, if you do a chat GPT research and you say, hey, liquid staking protocols, what's the best yield in all of crypto, whether you're talking Arbitrum, Ethereum, Solana, Validator X gives the best yield of any liquid staking protocol that we found.
And for Plus X, there's two tokens. There's UpX, and then for Validator X, there's the UPLS, which is the receipt you get for staking PLS. Yes. And then go ahead.
Yeah, let me do a quick roundup on that. So we started with Up, and after that UpX. Those coins are designed to only go up. So this is based on twofold. We have a treasury, which we are growing by compounding, which also goes by the leveraging from liquid loans, but also at the same time we're reducing the supply and we are making different buy and burn streams. So when we take a loan, we also take a portion of the loan and we buy back our coins. We have an internal validator sets, which also have a buy and burn stream. So with portion of the yield, we buy and burn our tokens. Validator X is built on top of that because everybody liked the validator so much. So the protocol has become a standalone protocol where 91% of the yield goes to the stakers, with a portion of the fee also goes to buy and burn Up and UpX. And now we're building LPX, and also a portion of the fees will go to support the buy and burn of Up and UpX. So basically, it's basically supporting those two coins, Up and UpX. But Validator X is standalone, and for the receipt token, you will get UPLS, which represents the earned yield.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and LPX is just a standalone protocol with no receipt, with no particular token. It's just you participate in the protocol.
And Doc, do you have something else you want to cover on Validator X?
Yeah, I'll just touch on one thing that is really interesting and really powerful that Validator X basically gave people the freedom to use, and that is Validator X strategy. So with VXS for short, if you're a staker, you can essentially piggyback on top of Validator X and use our DApp to make your own custom automated yield stream, where you can direct a certain portion of your PLS rewards to DCA into a token of your choosing. If you like Ink, if you like PulseX, if you like another alt token on the chain, a meme token of your choosing, you want to auto buy that token and not, click buttons every day, go stake some Pulse and Validator X. You'll be earning, like I said, since the inception, the APR is just under 22%. So you could direct 10% of your yield coming in as Pulse to buy Ink, PulseX, whatever you want. It's fully automated. It's basically a contract that you're building yourself. We don't know of any other liquid staking protocol that's done that. And it also has the ability to send, obviously, tokens to a burn address. So founders and community members that want to support a token and maybe have an automated buy and burn for some obscure token, they can set that up as well through VXS and direct portions of PLS yield to buy and burn tokens. It's pretty nice. And all of those buys done by VXS are routing through PulseX V1 or V2. So it supports the PLSX buy and burn.
Gotcha.
All right. Yeah, well, I think that kind of summarizes it. If you got some spare Pulse and you want to earn a yield being a validator, you've got an option without going into the hardware store and buying a bunch of stuff and getting the tech skills. So that's what Validator X is. But I think the big story today is the deep dive into LPX. I think that's where most of your fun questions are going to come. So LPX, yeah, it's yield for any token. It's a new type of protocol. Prior to DeFi, everything was a centralized exchange. People went in there and, you had the market makers that existed within that system. You had companies like Citadel and those guys would go in there and they would become market makers for a token. You'd hire them. Well, we have, since DeFi started and Uniswap came along, their whole new ecosystem of providing liquidity began, and we are taking that to the next level. So we are steps beyond Uniswap is the way I like to look at it. We are the next evolution of liquidity providing. And there's the stats. We have it up and running. It's been running since November. And Boss, you want to run through the people that are using our stats, our LPX right now? What we got in there? Is Boss around?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah. It's been running since November on our internal coins up on LPX. It's been released for the public last week, and we started with phase 1, which basically are the RH coins, and some our up on LPX and UPulse are in the release list as well. So in total, we have got over $3 million value deposited in our protocol. So 15 billion Pulsechain has been deposited, 8 billion APEX, and there is like over 3.5 billion Pulse has been deposited, but also about 19 million UPulse, which represents over 20 billion Pulse. So there is over 20 billion Pulse, about almost 20 billion Pulsechain in there, and up on LPX, and there is also EX is in there. So it's 8 different coins at the moment we're trading, and we're doing. We've done in total in the last week over 3,500 trades already, Dave.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so we have participants already. We've been out for about 8 days. And what is this LPX? What's this new system? It's basically it's a market maker. If anybody knows what a market maker is, they provide liquidity so that a token can get traded, right? They have bids and asks, and it does one thing. It sells high and it buys low, and it's a market maker. It has, there's usually a spread between a market maker, and that's what's going on here. So it's a profit logic. It doesn't work on emotion. It's all algorithmic. And I think the best visual is like that's what it does right there. This next screen, you can see that it's got red sales, it's got green buys, and that's what it's doing. It's selling as the price moves up. It sells a little bit of the token. As the price starts to dip, it acquires and buys back your tokens. And that's called profit. I mean, that's the thing we all want to do. We want to sell high, buy low. That's the game of crypto. Everybody wants to be a trader. Well, this automates it. And so you can see right here, and I want to take you to some of the numbers. Those are just the dots. And this is the ink wrap pulse pair. What do you see here? RH, does that look like some chart you would like to have?
With a lot of buys, a lot of sells. Is it making money? Is it making money?
Oh, it does nothing but make money. Here's market makers. Here's some of the buys and sells. So I slid up to hide the screen and show you some of the buys and sells. So you can look at these and you can see that, okay, there was a sell. And again, this is still the ink chart. There's a couple down here. You can see where it sold $200 worth. That was 114, 105 tokens. And then when it bought back, look at the green, it spent $199 to buy back. And look at what it did. It grabbed 117, 119. So it sells at one price. It buys back at a cheaper price. And so the user is stacking more ink tokens. I mean, that's the idea behind an LPX. We want this thing to be fully automated, no emotion, no FOMO. It just reacts to the market.
Real quick though, so you got the hook, you got the interest, people are engaged, yep. I imagine. So if you're familiar with, DEXs, Uniswap trading, and also liquidity. So how can people kind of grasp this with, it's trading, there's a liquidity aspect of it. Like you give it coins and it's trading for you. Like how does, like one, is that accurate? And two, like how do you compare this to just putting your money into a liquidity pool and letting, it do its thing and permanent loss, all that, versus this kind of thing where it's actually, you're putting coins in, it's taking the liquidity and making the trade, making the profitable trade and stuff. Like how can people compare the two?
Doc, you want to take this one or? Just talk about the
Yeah,
difference between
yeah,
V2 and what
for
we
sure.
have here.
Yeah, for sure. So traditional liquidity pools will even go beyond V2. We'll say V2, V3, balancer, multi-basket style liquidity pools. When you're a liquidity provider, you are depositing tokens into those systems, and that liquidity that you've provided is essentially sitting in a passive pool, which anybody, any DeFi user swapping on a DEX, they have access to those tokens. They can come in, they can buy them, they can. And then you got the MEV bots that are taking advantage of pricing discrepancies and whatnot. LPX differs because the liquidity is not passive. It's not liquidity that's deployed into those existing traditional styles of pools that we're all familiar with. LPX sits on the side and it injects liquidity when it's profitable for the LPX to do so. So it's using I call it a sophisticated AMM, or its profit logic that is, the secret sauce behind LPX to inject liquidity into the existing pools only when it's profitable for the LPX to do so. This basically enables LPX liquidity providers to have a sense of security in that their tokens aren't sitting in a passive pool where they can be manipulated and subjected to, the impermanent loss that we're all familiar with. So it's a new thing. The liquidity is, we call it active liquidity, where it's injecting when it wants to versus just sitting there in a passive state.
Yeah. So if I can piggyback on top of that, your tokens, when you put them into an LPX, are not available for. They're like sitting in your wallet. Yeah, they're still in your wallet. In my brain, it's like they are not out there so somebody else can grab them. Yeah, you put them into a smart contract, but the smart contract is watching the market and says, hey, the price went up. Let's sell a little bit of my token. And it sells a little bit. And you can see the red arrow there. It sold $400 worth. And so it got rid of about 16 million Pulsechain, 16.2 million. But then the market turns around a couple hours later and it goes back and it says, okay, I've got this new DAI that I just sold. I collected some DAI. We call it the anchor token. You sold the PulseX. You now have some DAI. Well, that dry powder is waiting for an opportunity and it's in your wallet. It's not out there for somebody else. And then the LPX sees an opportunity, says, hey, let's go deploy that and let's go get our tokens back plus some. And that's what you can see here. You can see the red boxes and you can see the red arrows. The boxes show you the sell price. You were selling at, 2488, 2487, and you're buying them back at 2390. Very small moves. The no trade zone, we have this thing called the no trade zone. And the distance between the 2488 and the 239, that's enough to make a profit. That's the spread. You're a market maker. I'm willing to sell you my tokens at this price. I'm willing to buy them back at this price. And then when the market gives you those opportunities, the LPX makes that play for you. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You're not staring at your computer. You're just making a yield. That's what LPX does.
Is Pulsechain, does it have enough volume? Does it have enough? Are there only certain tokens this will work with? Like, does it need volatility? What environment does this thrive in?
Well, it definitely thrives in Pulsechain because we have the volatility, because you're looking for that up and down movements. It can even trend up and we can trend down. In our presentation we did at your conference, we showed you the LPX working in a uptrend market, a downtrend market, and a sideways market. And in all three of those, there's yield to be made. That's what market makers is an entire industry of people who make an awful lot of money. And we're bringing that to the people of Pulsechain, and it's for you to use. And you can see we already have $3 million worth of capital in here using it, and they're earning a yield. And here's the one issue we have. Like, here's the what is this? This is the eHex wrap pulse pair. Okay, and so you deposited, day one, it opened up as single sided. That's the other big difference between LPX and V2. It opens up single sided. So these guys came in here, they deposited their eHex, and it started selling because that's what it's intended to do. Hey, the market's pumping. Let's sell a little bit. Let's stack some DAI. So when the market turns around, we can reacquire more. And so, and what happened though is that first, couple of hours, they're looking at their eHex being sold and they're freaking out. It's like, oh, you're selling my tokens. What in the hell are you doing? You're selling my tokens. Well, that's the design. You got to stack some dry powder. You got to stack some DAI so that you can come back in and reacquire those tokens at a better price. So yeah, there's some people who aren't built for an LPX because they're too emotional, you know, but for the people who want to yield, it's there for you.
Well, how does it know? Is that the secret sauce? Like, how does it know how to make these trades? Is it AI? Like, what does that look like?
It is an algorithmic secret black box of mathematics, high level mathematics, but there is a no trade zone. So basically, those red cells you see, it's waiting for the price to drop back down 2.34%. And so when the price drops back down 2.34%, it starts taking the dry powder, the anchor token, because you don't have to anchor, you don't have to stack your dry powder in DAI. You can stack your dry powder in Pulse. You can stack your dry powder in Ink. Whatever your favorite token is, let's say you're a most token lover. You love most token. So that's the token you're going to start with. But when you sell it, you don't want to stack it in DAI. Maybe you want to stack it up in Pulse. Well, you'll have that option with LPX. But then when the ratio changes, it will take the dry powder, the Pulse that you have, and it'll redeposit that into the market and recover your most tokens as so that you end up with more tokens at the end of the day or at the end of the week, whatever the cycle, however long the cycle takes.
Yeah, Dave, let me come back on the black box, on the magic sauce. LPX isn't just newly, it's newly released on Pulsechain. We've been showing it on our internal Up and Apex since November, but LPX actually is developed 2017 already. And then back then it was on the centralized exchanges, and LPX was used by many founders for generating profits from the tokens, supporting the charts, and I believe they sold it for $20,000 per token. So it has been battle tested for 7 years. This is a highly sophisticated algorithm, which is used to be only available for professionals, which is becoming available for everyone now. So it isn't just like, hey, we found some algorithm, let's try it out. This is top-notch software what's being released here. So it is just like, oh, it's gone up, let's sell. Oh, it went down, let's buy. No, this is highly advanced stuff. So just wanted to point it out.
Yeah, there is to piggyback on exactly what Bas said. It's more than just, oh, it went up and it went down. The no trade zone ratchets, that's part of the secret sauce and the profit logic. And our dev team has been building for many, many, many years on multiple chains. And one of those use cases for their automated market making tool was actually for an L1, which cannot be named. But just to throw that out there, that this is something that has been being used for many, many years, but it has never been brought into a blockchain in a decentralized fashion until now.
Correct. And so some of the revenue source comes from the inefficiencies in markets, because you've heard of arbitrage. And arbitrage, they go in, they rebalance the pools. Because somebody made a purchase, and Pitius does its best job it can to try to balance out the pools and give you the best execution on your trade. But there's still inefficiencies there. And so there are people that will, run arbitrage on that and earn some yield. Well, internally, this thing is earning that yield for you. You have created an LPX. You're scraping up those inefficiencies and the arbitrage opportunities. So all of that used to go off chain to these, individuals that would, come in and try to arbitrage off and extract this value. Now that arbitrage value is going into the wallets of the participants. We really do want Pulsechain to win. This is not about us or me or any individual. We would love to help Richard turn this chain into something very, very special. And this is our opportunity, because what it does is when you start grabbing a community of people and you say, hey, put your tokens over here, and we're all going to do the same thing. We're all going to try to grab more tokens. Well, what that does is it takes tokens off of the V2 exchanges, and that pushes the prices higher. If you remove a couple 100,000 Pulse X every time this thing goes in and out of a cycle, that came out of a V2 position, so the price is moving higher. So if you get that community coordination, this thing really can have a positive impact on the price of a token. In fact, it's designed to do. That's why market makers are paid money to do this on layer ones. They want to see their token and their chain evolve into something higher.
So that's a question I had too, is how does this affect liquidity on the chain? You said it's a good thing because, lower liquidity, price, more volatility, price can go higher, for example. But is that the reason why? I mean, this is more of like, it is kind of like that virtual market maker of like, okay, this is not liquidity on the market to sell. This liquidity being used for trading.
Yep.
What if what if everyone pulled liquidity and just put it into?
No. We're not asking you. No, we're not asking you to pull liquidity. We're asking you to participate. This is, I mean, there might be a few people over in liquidity pools who say, you know what, I want to come over here and play with this a little bit. But there's an awful lot of people and an awful lot of money not in a liquidity pool. Why? Because they've heard of impermanent loss. They're afraid of these things. This thing here, your tokens are not at risk. You're coming in here and, boss, how much volume have we done on Pulsex V2 and V1 so far with this thing in 8 days?
Yeah.
How many trades have we added to V1 and V2?
In a little over a week, we've been trading, when you double count total volume, that's about $1.4 million we've been trading on Pulsex V1, V2.
And those guys are earning fees off that. So, I mean, it helps all of Pulsechain.
When you say that funds aren't at risk, you're talking about impermanent loss there, where you're in a liquidity pool, you put tokens in, depending on V2, V3, different rules for it. But there's a permanent loss, so you get more of one token based on different actions in the market. For this, if you put the tokens in and they're being traded with, won't the amounts, isn't that of another kind of impermanent loss if you decide to withdraw after some period of time, or how does that work?
This first, see these red purchases right here on this first run up. If you came in and then you say, oh shit, I'm afraid, and you exited, then yes, you sold a bunch of your tokens and now you're sitting in DAI. So you base dollar cost average out on the way up, I guess you get it. But if you realize you're only stacking this, because nobody can come in and take those from you. Your LPX is slowly going to make an executed trade. It's like, okay, I'm going to sell $50 worth, $100 worth. This one here is what these sales, if you look at this picture, are like $125 sales, 60,000 EHEX. And so it's stacking that $126 in DAI, waiting to go back into the market. Nobody can come in and say, I'm going to take all of your EHEX and give you dollar bills.
Well, the point though is I'm trying to do the analogy between the impermanent loss part, which is, hey, based on people trading, you may have one or other, and the price going up, you may have more of one other. And this, you're based on the trades that are happening and how long you're in. Because impermanent loss, you're like, okay, if I wait long enough, I'll still be in, hopefully the price will go up and down, and I'll have more tokens or the ones I want. In this, what are you waiting for? And like, do you have to wait a while? Is there a lockup period, or what is the strategy? Like, how do people get into this without being like, oh, I just dollar cost averaged out?
I'll take it again.
Okay.
Go ahead, Doc. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say that, like Dave explained, if you deposited single-sided, the LPX basically needs to sell some of those fund tokens into the anchor token for it to begin market making. And somebody who just wanted a quick, short gain on unit count, they're going to have to be a little more patient. The system is designed, think of like microcycles and then a macro cycle, right? We were originally calling these microcycles loops. The more loops that the system does, the more calibration it does with your deposited tokens. And the longer you stay in, the less and less chance of impermanent loss you will have.
That's what I want to dig into is
right.
How do you use it? How do you use it in a way where you're not going to be like, oh, I didn't want to do that. I want to make money, but now I don't have it.
Look, we could go down so many rabbit holes here. So there is, if you go in a single-sided position, I think that a user should have a little bit more of an extended time frame if they are a token count maxi. Like Dave and I, we're completely content with having some of the tokens moved into an anchor because what LPX does is it ensures that you're not just left with a screenshot that you showed some of your buddies about, hey, at one point I had X amount of dollars in DeFi and nothing to really show for it. LPX is trying to change that game where if you screenshotted your portfolio when you went into an LPX, the LPX is trying to get you more unit counts while also increasing your value, your total value, right? So there's 4 different types of LPXs. We've primarily been talking about the single-sided LPX, where you can come in with a single-sided position of only your fund token. There are other parts. There are other types, I should say, that would essentially, if you came in at a 50-50 ratio using one of our dual pools, I would say that the impermanent loss is mitigated tenfold. But it's important to note that even the single-sided, the IL, due to the profit logic and the way that it operates, is severely mitigated. But the simple fact of the matter is, if you come in and you deposit, you need to know, if you're going in single-sided, that to kick things off, it's going to be selling some of that fund token into the anchor token so that it can redeploy those. And it's trying to do these loops called microcycles. And the more of those that it does, the more mitigated the IL becomes. We'll definitely jump into the other types, but Dave, do you have anything else to kind of throw in there?
Go ahead, Arch.
Just real quick, because again, people are listening out here. They're like, okay, is this a tool I can use for a week at a time to make some money, or is this a month or months long? How do you see this being like the most profitable? Where people, okay, I'm glad I used the tool and stayed in it for a few weeks at a time because I made some money. Like, yes. What is the result of that?
Okay, so if let's say you're a Pulse holder, if you wanted no risk and a yield, you would go to a validator system. There's no risk at all. You have the Pulsechain's, validator contract risk, or if you're joining a liquid staking pool, then you have, our contract risk. You have a little bit of risk, but we've proven ourselves that we're as safe as you're going to get. But in terms of providing liquidity to earn a yield, so those who want to provide liquidity, the impermanent loss risk in V2, V3 is definitely there. But in LPX, it's highly mitigated. If you're in there more than, say, a month, we have an internal LPX that's been running since November. So it's about, 8 months old. There is zero impermanent loss. In fact, we have an impermanent gain somewhere around probably 50, 60% APR. So zero impermanent loss with a 50% yield is what this thing has the potential of doing. What will it do that for every token? It depends, like you said earlier, it depends on some volatility with the token, but Pulsechain is very volatile. All these tokens are, for the most part, bonded with Pulse, and Pulse goes up and down enough to drive us all crazy. So yes, there's plenty of volatility. And so the yield, you're going to buy back in. The image I have is like, let's say you had an early Bitcoin guy, and it's like Richard. Richard was an early Bitcoin guy. And then Ethereum came out, and it's like, you know what? I'm going to swap some of these out. The only way you can acquire Ethereum is to sell some of your Bitcoin. Unless you're coming up with fresh funds and you want a DCA in, that's fine. But this is a method for somebody who doesn't want to bring in fresh funds. You want to increase your stack. So you sell a little bit of the token you love, and you go get the second token. And then what happens is the ratio changes, and you say, hey, you know what? I'm going to make some money. I can sell the token I can sell some of the Ethereum, and I can get back more Bitcoin. And then you run that cycle over and over again. The market makers, Bitcoin wouldn't be here unless somebody sold 10,000 freaking Bitcoin for a couple of pizzas. You have to have market makers, and you have to have liquidity for a market to grow. And LPX is that. And I can tell you what, those early Bitcoin people who went in and started playing with ETH and trying to build the market, they did not come out at a loss. There was no impermanent loss. In fact, they probably have more Bitcoin and a huge stack of Ethereum. That's what LPX is. It's a market maker tool. So yes, you do have to be in there more than a few days. This is not, it's not a free yield, get out of jail free card here. You have to stay in the game. You got to let it sell a little bit of your token, and then you got to let it buy it back. But the yield is very, very profitable.
Be curious to see any metrics on the average, how long the average wallet or average person stays in LPX and their APR and stuff like that. That'd be some cool metrics.
Yeah. Let me add a little bit, because when you just come into LPX and it starts to sell, and then people got scared, like, hey, I'm losing my stack, and I'm getting staples back. But as you're not selling it, you're basically waiting for dips, and this will continue. So what this means is you are depending on volatility here. The more volatility you have, the more yield, the more profit you make. So, and you have long-term volatility and you have short-term volatility, like intraday volatility. And as long as the intraday short-term volatility is high, you will make a lot of microcycles or loops, whatever it makes. But when the long volatility outperforms the short volatility, then you will have temporarily sold more tokens than you bought back. But you need to have like the full cycle. So if you go in for a week, it really depends how does the market behave at that time. So if it goes up 10%, then you don't give LPX the time to accumulate more tokens within that week, because APR is like for a full year. So if you want to have 40%, you need to stay in for a full year. Within a week, the APR can be 200%, but it can also be like negative when you just look at token count. So if you just come in and come out to make a sure profit, I don't think that's the game. But if you want to have your capital work for you and you want to make a good yield in it, I think LPX is the way for you.
Is there any
panicking, because you need to let it work for you, and you need to let the volatility outperform the long-term volatility, and then yeah, then you're good.
Is there any, like, the more people participate, the more capital, the more funding that this trading strategy has and stuff, is it more APR or less APR? Like, is it, and if you join a pool, usually, okay, the APR goes down because more people in, less share and stuff like that. But for this particular thing, yeah, go ahead.
For those types of pools you're mentioning, like traditional yield farming type things where there's incentive tokens, yes, the more people that join a pool dilutes everybody else. But this is different. The more people that come in, the more value in the LPXs. What that means is that it's going to, with the volatility that is on the chain, it will just make bigger buys and bigger sells. And it doesn't necessarily affect the yield, because the yield comes from the volatility on the chain. And when you have so many different tokens, right? And right now, keep in mind, the LPXs that are currently running, it's, I think, 8 tokens. Imagine when there's many, many different LPXs running and people can create custom LPXs with their own no trade zones. That's going to basically enable the LPXs to trade against each other, which will be even more volatility for the LPX liquidity providers. But it's different because essentially there's no incentive token. The yield is real yield in the form of whatever your anchor token is. So in this case, a lot of the public LPXs are DAI. So I hope that answers your question there. And
yeah,
my take on the impermanent loss thing is, again, this isn't a passive traditional liquidity pool. The LPX is trading when it's profitable for the system to do so, and it's essentially using the capital that you deposited to make yield in these microcycles. So early on, like when the LPX first engages, the buys are going to be small, right? But as more cycles continue to go on and happen, the LPX basically is going to rely on your principal less, and it's going to use the accumulated profits. And as more of these cycles continue to happen, that's what really empowers the whole mitigated impermanent loss. So yeah, that's my take on the IO.
Is it the more, I guess, when people are thinking about using it, is it in there? They're like, okay, should I put in $100, $1,000 worth of tokens? 10 million pulls, like whatever the numbers may be. Mm-hmm. Is it profitable to put more in, or does it matter as much? Like on your principal when you start with this?
I'll let Dave talk about this, but we have. If, in my opinion, if you're interested in this, obviously people have to get comfortable with it. We have a lot of people comfortable with our systems, as evident by all the Pulse staked and Validator X, but I don't really like to have tokens sitting dormant in my wallet when I can be using them in an LPX that is a smart liquidity system designed to do exactly what it's doing. So for me, my risk appetite might be a little higher than others, but I also know what's going on here. Dave?
Yeah. So in terms of additional, should I put in 50 million pulse or should I put in 100 million pulse? Will that change my APR? No. What it does is it's going to allow you to even support the price more, because when your sales start getting bigger because you've put in more, so it's, you're outside the no trade zone, so you get a little bigger sale. What that does is gives you more dry powder to buy back in and help support the price. Boss has the number. How much dry powder do we have over here in LPX right now, Boss? You gave me the number earlier. It's like 200
Yeah, almost
$25,000.
Yeah, 230.
Yeah, we almost have $250,000 in DAI right now. And what is that doing? It's looking for a price to go in and buy tokens. So what is that going to do to Pulsechain if we go from $250,000 in DAI to buy and support the price to having 5 million in DAI ready to support the price? What's that going to do for the Pulsechain? So that's the dynamic that some people get lost and don't pay attention to. But it's that community coordination effort that LPX changes. That doesn't exist with V2. V2, it's passive. Nobody out there pushing your price. This system here is designed to get you a yield and at the same point in time support Pulsechain like nothing has ever supported Pulsechain in the past. Now, and again, we said earlier, there was a L1 that paid our devs very good money to come in and produce this system for them so they could produce a positive price chart for their token because this thing works. So the devs went in, they built this thing for them. This thing, like I said, it's been running since 2017 privately, but now it's public and it's public on Pulsechain. So we're going to have if we get enough participants within Pulsechain, this thing will have enough dry powder to, on its own, continue to support the price and push it higher, while at the same point in time earning a yield for the participants, because we saw the trades. It went in and sold at this price and it buys back at that price. And it does that repeatedly with thousands and thousands of time. Now, you might have one trade that's like, oh, it never came back down to that price, so it didn't buy in with those funds. But if you have 100 of them that did work, where you actually had this little microcycle, it sold 200, it bought it back, and you got more tokens. Sold 200, bought it back, you got more tokens. And it does that enough times, and that's what I've seen in the 8 months we've had our internal LPX. We probably we are up probably 75 million UpX tokens on that LPX. So it created more UpX tokens for us. That doesn't even count the thousands of dollars in DAI and dry stable coins that we've actually said, okay, this is yield. We'll go ahead and pull this off and use this somewhere else because we're not going to need that to buy back in. We already got our token supply plus more back, and we've got a yield. That's what LPX does if you stay in the game long enough.
I want to pause just for a second too, because we got some questions in the chat I want to get to. But real quick, just recapping so far, just the comparison to some of the other yield options out there. You got validator stuff, you got the native, you got the protocols part, you got liquidity, earning fees and liquidity pools that has some permanent loss. You have the farms, you can earn incentive token and stuff. There could be permanent loss there as well. You can earn incentive token. And then there's with LPX, it's basically you're funding. Maybe on the technical side, I could use a little bit of clarification here. Is it setting up? Is there is there a liquidity pool that when you make a deposit and stuff? Are you depositing into a liquidity pool that the trading part has access to? You're basically funding it to make trades.
Yeah. Not much different than what you would have done with Uniswap or PulseX or any of those. You send your funds over to a smart contract, and Uniswap and PulseX, the smart contract allows people to come in and touch your tokens. With this one here, you take your tokens, you put them in a smart contract. They're not touchable by the public. Your smart contract looks over at the market and says, hey, there's an opportunity to make money, and it injects them. So that's the big difference. But yes, your tokens are in a smart contract, but it's active liquidity, not passive. Your funds are not available for somebody else. The smart contract is looking for an opportunity for you to make a yield.
It will only trade when it's profitable.
Guys, we've spent a decent amount of time talking about impermanent loss, and one thing that should be noted is when a token or a community is using an LPX, one of the most powerful things is when the community works together and you see tokens that have LPXs running and they've got a stack of anchor token there to defend the price. Because you also have to take into account, yes, nobody likes impermanent loss, and yes, LPX mitigates it a lot. However, the other added bonus is the support that it gives for the token and ecosystem. The Pulsex to die LPX the other day had around 75 grand worth of anchor token that it had accumulated. And then we started having some dips on the chain over the past 24 hours, right? I think I looked earlier today and it was down to about 50 grand of anchor token. So somewhere around $25,000 worth of DAI was re-injected, buying dips on the Pulsex charts, right? Capturing those dips. It's helping support the token. And, you know, one other thing that it does is it's not extracting that value and sending it directly to somebody's wallet for them to take. It used that DAI to help prop the price back up. And, you know, a lot of times what happens if there's people watching a chart, right, and they see a big red candle, the price of the token goes down 10, 20%. You've got guys that are going to try to go in there and gobble that dip up real quick, knowing everybody else is going to react. And the first few buyers, they probably just take profit when the token goes back up 10, 15%. The LPX is designed to do that. It snatches those big red candles on the way down by doing its strategic buys that are going to fire off. It doesn't wreck itself on slippage and crazy gas prices. It knows exactly what it's doing and how it's firing off those buys. And the great thing about that is the LPX captured some of that dip. It captured some of that red candle, not somebody else that's going to turn around and redump it as soon as the price goes back up 5, 10, 15%. The LPX will sell again in small micro cells. You know, obviously the more value in there, like a lot of the LPXs right now running are doing like $400 buy, $400 buy, $400 sell, $400 sell. But just over the past 24 hours in that Pulsex pool, it rebought somewhere around $25,000 worth of Pulsex. So,
Yeah,
yep.
I'm going to jump in here. Yeah, we got the UI up now. You can see the EHEX pair right here, and you can see that there's no more anchor. EHEX evidently, it's used it all. It's taken all of the anchor token, all of the hex that it had acquired, and it sold the hex, and it was reacquiring EHEX. So these guys are up. They got more EHEX now than they had when they started because it's used
the
all
anchor
of
too. I don't think we've.
This one here is anchored to hex. Yeah. Well, you know,
what does anchor mean?
Okay, when it had it, you know, they put in 35 million EHEX, and then when the price of EHEX was going up, it sold and it bought hex, the Pulsechain hex. So it was stacking Pulsechain hex, but then the ratio switched back around, and it said, okay, now you can go buy more of your EHEX with the hex you have. So it sold the hex and it bought the EHEX back.
So yeah, the anchor is the token you are selling into.
Yes. So you do not have to anchor it to DAI. You see these other pairs like the Wrap Pulse DAI pair. Here's the UPulse DAI pair. We haven't fired this one off. There's no anchor token in the UPulse. We're waiting for the we have a routing contract that we're developing for this one here because we have, you know, very thin liquidity on UPulse. So we're going with a different option on this one. And I want to show you something real. If going down here and I'll show you that I do have a stake, remove liquidity. I can come in here. I did not select the right pool. Hold on. I got to select it first. I've done that a million times, by the way. You got to select the pool you want to look at. Here's UPulse now. I can come over here and I put in, you know, a couple million, what is that? 2 million the other day, just as a demo when I was doing a demo. I can come and withdraw all that. Once anchor token, once it sold some of that, you'll get some anchor token back and you'll get whatever's left of this because maybe you haven't bought it all back. Maybe I won't million, but I'll have anchor. But then there's also a yield and collect me your yield that you have. So I will show you now one of the, here's the, I think I put one of these. Let's see. Yep, I can remove my pulse. And if I remove my pulse now, I'll have less pulse than I put in, but I'll have $33 in DAI. And if I go to there's 88 cents, I can come over here and patiently, this 33 will go back down to maybe $10 an anchor, because it's going to take some of that and go reacquire my Pulse for me. And at some point, this will be more than I started with, and I will have anchor on top of it. That's what happened with our LPX that was running for 8 months. We started out with 1 LPX and 0 anchor token. And currently, we have it. We used ours to burn. Had we not burned, we'd probably 2 billion. No, we wouldn't have. We'd have about 1.35 billion UpX and probably about 15,000 in DAI still. We would have more of our original token, and we have anchor token still waiting to buy if it dips further. So that's the process on how this works. And to join one of these is very simple. You connect your wallet, you come over here to Ink, say, hey, I got some Ink I'm going to throw in here and get a yield, because the yield over on the farms is pretty unhappy right now. You come in here, you hit add liquidity, you type in how much you want. Let's say you put maybe 44. You would also need to add in 755 DAI. It's no longer single-sided because it has started trading. Go to phase 3. If you wanted to come in single-sided because you didn't want to go purchase DAI, you could start your own LPX with Ink. You could come in here and change a couple of the settings. Maybe you don't want a no trade zone at 2.34. So it gets a little bit more advanced. When we get to phase 3, we'll have to come back in and talk about, some of the different logics on, why you might want to change something. But for now, these are the existing pools, and these are the ones you can join.
On the no trade zone, 2.34%.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, can you explain that?
Absolutely. So if it sells, let's say Ink gets up to $1.70, and so it sells a little bit of your Ink at $1.70. Once the price drops 2.34, that's when it will start reacquiring your Ink. So your profit is going to be a minimum of, pretty much at 2.34%, because you're selling high and buying low. Now if you wanted to change that to 10%, sold at $1.75 on your Ink, it would have to drop, 17 cents, and then your DAI would go back into the market and start buying. So you have the option and the flexibility to change your no trade zone. 2.34 through our simulations and the modeling we did seemed like one where we could get a very nice yield for those people, because it goes in and out often.
Does it have, so when people are looking at yields and stuff, because that number's highlighted 2.34, so that I assumed at first that was the APR or something. Can you see the APR from these, or why is that number so important?
That's coming. APR is coming. We have a UI update coming later in this week, and along with that UI update, where you'll be able to see the APR, we will also be able to start this pool, and we will put in our first stable pool. We're going to have a DAI USDL pool that people can join. But yeah, this no trade zone, we have 2 existing LPXs that we run with our internal tokens. One's at a 5% no trade zone, and one's at a 10% no trade zone. They're both in profit. They both do very, very well. This one here, it gets people in and out of the market. This is more for educational purposes. We set this up so that we could have the opportunity to educate. Not only that, but when you do get a yield, let's say you sold some and bought back, and you get a yield. Let's say you made $3, the equivalent of $3 in tokens. Half of that gets compounded. Half of it goes into the claim yield button down here, and you can claim.
You can claim without exiting.
You can claim without exiting. Yes, sir. Just like a V3 position, and the yield you got in V3.
Gotcha. Got a few questions.
Touch on something real quick.
Go for it.
So one of the other really cool things with this is, we talk about V2, V3 balancer style liquidity pools. There's basically 2 options with those. In the V2 and the balancer style multi-basket liquidity pools, your yield is just continuously auto compounding back into those pools. V3, there's no auto compounding. You just have to go over there if you're in a V3 position and harvest your yield. With LPX, once the public phase 3 pools comes out where you can create your own pools, you can customize that. You could say you want 100% to compound back into your position, or you want to be able to come claim 100% of it. Or you could set it up to do a split of 70% compound, 30% harvest, whichever you choose. Right now, the public pools that are running are at a 50-50. So 50% of the yield compounds back into the pools, and 50% goes to that claim basket. So users can come over there. You know, we've been talking about different things people can do with their yield. And one thing that came up the other day was if you've got Anchor token there to claim and you're thinking about reacquiring the fund token, you can kind of try to time your buys with the same time that LPX is buying, which basically means you're buying the dip because LPX buys on the dips. So if you go claim yield and you want to redeploy that into the same fund token for the pair that you just claimed from, it's possible that a good time to deploy that is when LPX is buying. Or if you think the markets are going to even keep going down lower, just hold on to the funds that you claimed and rebuy whenever you want. Or go take the stable coins or whatever the Anchor token is and put it into your Vault wallet or deploy the stable coins into a stablecoin liquidity pool. We will be having stablecoin LPXs coming out here soon, which is going to be pretty crazy. You can just take two things that are stable, throw them into an LPX, and earn a nice yield on them. One thing we didn't touch on. Sorry, go ahead. All right.
No, I just said nice. No, go ahead.
Yep. One thing we didn't touch on was, you know, that yield harvesting thing is a new customizable thing that the V2, V3 balancer style pools don't have, but there's also many other features that LPX has that is, you know, going to revolutionize the way that somebody provides liquidity and suits their needs and their goals. And that is basically the different types of LPXs that we have. Is now a good time to touch on the types, guys, or what do you think?
I don't know if I'm worried that we're getting a little too deep in the weeds for some people. I mean, LPX is a yield gen. The impermanent loss thing can be beat to death, but this is not V2. Impermanent loss doesn't need to exist in this. Basically, you're selling some of your principal to stack Anchor to buy back in. That's what the thing does. Could it sell too much of your token and hold too much Anchor? They're not over the not over the long term. Over a short term, yes. Over the long term, no. You're going to end up with more fun token, more of the token you love, and some of the Anchor token, whatever you happen to anchor. So it's the impermanent loss thing. It drives me crazy to keep talking about it but I know it exists. So V2 has pounded that in our head. Everybody's afraid of V2. This is not V2. This is an automated market maker. So, but it's like, if you want to get a yield, you got the opportunity here. And yes, it's no longer single-sided because we've been running for a little bit. So you do have to come in with a little bit of the Anchor token, but in a few weeks, you know, you will be able to make your own token. And if you want most token to be an LPX, you'll have that option. In fact, phase 2 is coming out here probably not too long from now, you know, maybe 2 weeks from now, we'll have phase 2 where we will have some of the RH memes and, you know, some of the solid X index tokens. And I think Coffee's Top Hat's going to be one of these, and Crispy's Fire token. All of those are going to be part of an LPX very soon. So, you know, the ecosystem has been seen by many of the people who really dig deep into the weeds on these things. And they really do like what they see. It does create yield. We've seen the slides where it sells high, buys low. And if you just keep an eye on it, if you don't want to participate, that's fine. Keep an eye on it because this is the next evolution. Uniswap took a lot of people some time before they said, okay, I'm going to put my funds in there. I don't know what in the hell this thing is. This two-sided A times B equals K. That's some crazy stuff. What's going on? This may take a few people some time as well. But LPX is a new form of liquidity. It's built for the common man, the person who doesn't want to suffer through V2 issues. This is a better liquidity system. It has $250,000 waiting to help support the price of Pulsechain. That element alone makes me love this, not to mention the yield. So yeah, do we want to go into the other options? I mean, yeah, we can. It depends on RH. How much time does the guy have?
I like getting technical. I like to understand all these different pieces. I do have a few questions though. Can we just go through a few questions first and then we get other pieces?
Sure.
Yes, you can. Absolutely.
Yeah, love to. Krill asked, started some LPs on LPX pools a few weeks ago, currently having less tokens, including Anchor plus claim value, than provided as principal. Is this possible or am I counting wrong?
Okay, the issue is he's sitting there in Anchor. So like the position I showed you for mine, where I put in some Pulse and I'm sitting there with $33 worth of a die. The issue he is having and why he's thinking he's at a loss is because he's taking those $33 and he's saying, hey, I want to go buy back in right now. He's not waiting for the dip to happen to take that $33 I have and to allocate it at the right time. If you let LPX work, it's going to go through a cycle. Now, what if it never comes back down there? Well, then it's also going to sell when it gets to the new high. And then that sale will buy back in because the thing's not going to go up straight up. So you might have 4 or 5 of your sales that never get closed, but you're going to have 50 sales that do get closed. And those 50 that do get closed, because the market doesn't just go straight up, it cycles up and down, up and down. Those 50 that you do close will cover the few tokens that you did not get back from the closure of the first one. And you're sitting with additional stables. So as we said earlier, so when you get to the top of the market and this thing rides itself out, not only do you have all your tokens back, but you got this stack of DAI or this anchor token that you can now take a screenshot of. Yep, I have more tokens and I have a stack of DAI to go with it. That's what's happened with our 8-month running LPX. The up and up X LPX has been running for 8 months. We have 75 million additional UpX and probably around $20,000 in DAI. So LPX is not a guarantee against impermanent loss, but it will mitigate it in the short run, and over the long run, you don't have to worry about it. It depends on the life cycle of the person looking at their pool.
Yeah, I would like to take this opportunity, Dave, to touch on another thing than just yield with LPX. With LPX, you're supporting your token, and you will only sell at profitable prices. So he has been selling a little bit into the pump, but every trade has been into profit. His back is worth more. And what we've seen with LPX on our UpX token, every time we've been selling a little bit into pumps, but the dry powder increase, and when there is a dip, there is this dry powder to buy it up. So what we've seen with UpX is we're going up in price, and then there is like this big dip again in Pulse, and everything dips with it. But our LPX kicks in and protects the chart. So what it does is just buying, and we go up in ratio against Pulse. So we basically, it enables you to decouple from the rest. And we have been going up in ratio from, I think, about 1 to 1. We started in November, and we've been up to 7 Pulse for UpX. So our price have done 7x. And recently there is like this big whale dumper coming in, but we're still above 3x against Pulse. And I think that's greatly due to LPX. So yeah, we have been making a good yield, but on top of that, we have done over 3x on price as well. So that's much more value than just the yield.
Yeah, and if I'll piggyback on something there, not only do you protect your price, but you help to decouple from Pulse. Our tokens have decoupled from Pulse. Pulse can move now. Our tokens typically go in the other direction. And we're hoping that we can do that same thing with Pulsechain to Ethereum. As Ethereum goes up and down, we see Pulsechain going up and down. If we can get enough, well, not if, when we have enough liquidity in LPX, we will see a decoupling between Pulse and Ethereum, and then Pulsechain can just run and just continue to go higher, because that's what LPX is designed to do for Pulsechain.
Got a question. I think this is for the Validator X. How is APR calculated?
Every 8 hours, Pulsechain sends out the validator rewards for the blocks that it just ran. And so every time that they send us our allocation from the blocks we built and the attestation fees and all the others, that gets added to the stack of Pulse that we have, because we have a big old bag of Pulse out there validating, and that gets added to it. And so now each U-Pulse is worth more. And so if you take the value, when we started, 1 U-Pulse was worth 1 Pulse. And today, 1 U-Pulse is worth 1.10 something. I'd have to go look, but it's, half a year's gone by and we're up 10%. So the other half of the year will be another 10% if we keep going. And so you just take what your average is at this point, you multiply it out, assuming that we're going to do something similar. And that's how we get above 20%, because we've already grown 10% and we launched on January 27th with Validator X.
Yeah, and for LPX, that stats will come later on the website. We will have an upgrade from the UI next week with the APR into it, and also with the documents explaining exactly how.
Gotcha. Back to LPX. Can I lose tokens at all in LPX, or am I getting zero profit in worst case withdrawing?
Okay, so here's the pools we have to offer. We have single-sided. Those are the ones we launched publicly in phase 1. And you'll see that at the top, there's 4 types. There's a dual where you can actually come in with 2 sides of a token. You can come in there, I want to pair up my hex and my EHEX, but damn it, I don't have equal sides. I don't have 50-50 in terms of dollar value. You can come in with whatever ratio you have. If you have, 2/3 of your assets are in hex and 1/3 in EHEX, you can just start a dual pool with those 2 tokens. And now both of them are working in the same direction as a single-sided. Now you have hex trying to get bigger, and you have your EHEX trying to get bigger. Both of them are working together. Directional is a single-sided, and it's one direction only. It's basically it's what everybody's been asking for in V3. It's like V3 position. You start buying into a token. Let's say you spring in a V3 position and you set up a big buy wall. Well, the problem with V3 is once you start going down into that buy wall, if you're not paying attention, you can exit right back out of it. Directional doesn't do that. Once you start selling your DAI and acquiring, let's say you're a person who loves the most token. So you're selling your DAI and you're acquiring most. If the chart starts to reverse, it does not sell your most token. So this is a directional only. And then we have a liquid. And liquid is same idea as dual. You come in with 2 sides. It's almost, I want to say it's our V2 solution. So this liquid is basically a V2. The no trade zone is really small so that there's always liquidity on the market, and you have reduced fees. So liquid is going to be, the backbone for somebody, a founder who wants their token to be super liquid. They will come in here and they will use liquid. I also want to compare it to Curve Finance. And Curve, the slippage is very small if you want to go from stable to stable, because the way it's set up. And liquid is our version of a V2, kind of a Curve style type of a option for an LPX. So, we have multiple styles. And then, of course, the modes, if you want to set one up just for yourself, you can have a solo pool. I'm the only one who's going to be in here. I'll set the settings to my desire, and I'm the only one using it. You can have manager pools where you can go in and let somebody join your pool, and you still have the authority to go in and change a few settings. So if you get some really engaging LPX managers, they may be able to build a following because they're getting a better APR than the guy who's doing a solo pool. And so maybe you go over there and you pay him a little bit of a fee to join his pool. And then you have immutable. Those are the fixed. Nothing's going to get changed. Those are the set it and forget it. I don't have to worry about anything. I'm just going to join this pool and let it make me a yield. Any questions about those?
I see the question.
That's a deeper dive. We're not at that stage. We're still a single-sided. Yeah.
I see the question on screen, and I like to give a short answer on that one. Can I lose tokens at all in LPX or getting zero profit in worst case? So the worst case, if you set it up in LPX and the max price is set to infinite, it will behave equal to V2. So the worst case scenario is you will have the same yield or whatever. Worst case scenario will be the same. Yeah. So basically, it will always dip. And if it will never dip, I think we all will be very, very happy.
Gotcha. Conspiracy Crypto, have the contracts been audited?
Righty. Well, we get that question a lot, as you should. They are audited internally by our devs, and they, writing codes. This is we have 8 devs within our room, and we work in when coding, they work in pairs of 2, and they'll have 2 people working on a certain type of protocol, and then the other 4 will come in and try to break this thing. So it's internal coding. They use internal local LMM. So we have our own AI machine that's built to audit code. And base code of LPX is battle tested since 2017. It's a proven revenue generator. In fact, our devs, they live a very happy life because, you know, LPX since 2017 has been their source of income. It's as they call it, it's their Monte Carlo, and it's really benevolent that they're giving this to us on Pulsechain, because this thing is incredible. As I said, they were charging ICO founders back in 2017, the ICO craze, you know, $10,000-$20,000 come and be market makers and to run this for them. Parts of LPX code will remain private. I mean, we do not want to give away our property here, but the open source portion is similar to the VX. Some of the smart contracts are open source. You know, the minting part, that's all open source. But yeah, we're very protective. We're not going to let somebody come in and fork this. So that's where the privacy part comes in. But yeah, we are not opposed to letting you know exactly what we've done and what we haven't done in terms of the audit system. Our devs sleep very well at night knowing that their money is very safe. But yeah, we're not going to give away the secret sauce in the black code. But yes, much of this is open source and audited. But unlike, you know, similar to Hyperliquid, billions of dollars a day run through that thing, and they're not giving away their intellectual property either. So
the contract's are they verified on the Block Explorer? Is that you saying some of them are, some of them aren't, or they aren't?
Correct.
So I'll take this part. So
go ahead.
The current code is not verified for somebody to come in and copy paste, right? It's very similar to Hyperliquid. It's intellectual property that we are unwilling to let somebody go fork all over the place. However, other portions of the code will be verified, fully immutable, and that will be the tokenized portion of LPX, because you'll soon be able to come in and tokenize your LPX positions, and that portion of the code will be fully verified and immutable. But again, similar to Hyperliquid, there will be portions of the code that remain private. And to speak on the audits, yes, it has been audited rigorously by a multitude of devs. And even before I was part of this team, I had a big, thing in my head about, okay, these guys go pay all this money to have some company do an audit. And how many times there are examples of large protocols that paid crazy amounts of money to have an audit done, only for the audit company to miss a bug. So, you know, it's something that I scratch my head about, but we believe these
audits
things
are only as good as the eyes that are looking at it. Yeah.
And then it goes to the fact of, okay, when the deployer launches the code, did he use the same code that was just audited, or did the deployer make a quick tweak? We're confident with our team and what the devs have put out here. And you
can see the trust. I mean, trust is built over time in a system like this. We've all seen Ethereum have its issues. We've seen Bitcoin. I mean, Richard talks endlessly about Bitcoin having an inflation bug. It's like, you know, and those things were audited like crazy. So yes, all smart contracts come with some risk. That's just part of the game we're in. You know, it's a risk versus reward attitude. But yeah, you can look at the fact that we're the number one liquid validator on Pulsechain, and that shows you the confidence that the community has in us. And the same thing's going to happen with LPX.
Is there a time frame for UPulse die pool, and does UPulse still accumulate validator rewards while in the LPX?
Absolutely. You're double dipping. So your pulse is over there on Validator X earning you a yield. You put the UPulse into LPX and you're getting a yield on top of the yield.
One more question and we'll move on. Rabby creates, in that case, I think it's based from the audits conversation, what state changes can admins make?
Nothing for trading. Trading is fully immutable, cannot be touched. The coins cannot be touched.
Similar to like in Validator X, I can go over there and I can deposit and I mint UPulse. nobody can go back in there and get my pulse except for the person who holds my UPulse. So if I send my UPulse to a separate address, I send them to my son, say, hey, here's my UPulse. Now he can go in and extract my pulse and the yield that goes with it. But the devs have absolutely no access to the pulse that's within the validator system. Those are immutable and verified contracts.
All right. You guys want to talk about the pool types or the modes? What's interesting here?
I would love to invite Doug talk about directional LPX.
I'll do a quick rundown. Dave touched on it, but just to run back through this, the screen is currently up. So we've hammered home on the single-sided. People can come in when an LPX is being launched. With the public pools that we have, we set it up such that there's a 48-hour window where you can come in single-sided. So the same thing will happen with the phase 2 pools, which are going to be several alt tokens on the chain. You'll have 48 hours to come in there and deposit Top Hat, Solid Index tokens, and several other tokens that are going to be in there. After the pool starts trading, you then need to come in with the correct ratio of fund to anchor token, because it has started doing its automated market making. The second type is a dual pool. Now, the dual pool is interesting because you can come in with 2 tokens, and it does not need to be 50-50 like traditional V2. You can come in with 90% of one token and 10% of another, or any combination thereof. Where we differ a lot between a traditional 2 basket liquidity pool is that no trade zone that traditional pools do not have, and whereby the LPX will be injecting liquidity only when it's profitable for the LPX to do so. The third type is the directional, which Dave touched on already. I like to give a quick example of, let's imagine you want to sell, let's choose Hex. Let's say you want to choose Hex, sell Hex at 20 cents. I'm just going to pull a number out of the hat. So the price of Hex is going up over 20 cents. It's now 21 cents, 22 cents. And you've chosen your anchor token to be DAI. So as it is selling the Hex into the anchor token, and now you're stacking DAI, what happens with the LPX directional is that if the market starts to turn around and Hex starts to drop back down, you do not lose the anchor token that you were selling into. It locks in your anchor token. In this case, we're using DAI. So it locked in that DAI. And if your mission was to exit, you have successfully moved through a portion of your Hex. You could have had a tight range, you could have a wide range. You could be saying, hey, I want to be out between 20 and 21 cents, or I want to be out between 20 and 30 cents. Whatever the ratio has moved to, it will not sell your DAI back into Hex. It locks it in. This is really nice because you didn't have to run back to pull your liquidity like you would in a traditional V3 pool, where you got to go pull the liquidity out as the market's moving the other way if your intention was to stay in the other side of the pool. Conversely, you can do the exact same thing in a accumulation mode. So say you want to buy Hex under a penny, right? So you set up your directional LPX to start DCAing into Hex under a penny. And as you're acquiring that Hex, you're just acquiring from like 1 penny to half a penny. But as soon as the market starts to pump, you will not relinquish that Hex back into the other side. So you don't have to worry about that Hex you acquired at a discount moving back into the anchor token, correct? So that's really cool about the directional. And then the last pool Dave already hit on was the liquid style, which is basically, think of it as a very, very low fee tier V2 pool. And its mission is to make sure that trades happen with the least amount of friction as possible. So those are the 4 types. And that's just a quick rundown on all 4 types. And then the modes again, we have a solo mode where you are creating your own LPX and only you can interact with it. Then we have managed pools. These are something that you may have a community, you might be a founder, or you might be a really good TA guy. So you can launch an LPX, and then you could set it up such that you're the manager. And other people that join that LPX, you get to set a fee, a manager fee. So the manager can make fees off of other people joining his pool, and he may control parameters such as what is the max price, what is the min price, what is the no trade zone, etc. And then you also have the third mode, which is a basically an immutable public pool. So somebody creates an LPX that anybody can join with immutable settings, and you as a user is looking at these different pools you want to jump into, and you're like, hey, I like this immutable pool. It's set up the way that I want, and you dive into that one.
Yeah, and I want to jump on the immutable pool because that's probably a founders type pool. Let's say you're a founder of a token, you got token ABC, and you say, hey guys, go join token ABC because you know that this is going to support your price chart. That's the way this thing goes. And if you get and we're going to tokenize it, and you bring your receipt token over from your immutable pool, bring it over here, stake it in my protocol, and I'll give you some inflation token. Right? I mean, there's other games that founders will play with the immutable pools so that they can get their community to lock up tokens if that's a game they want to play.
By the way, welcome, Haunted. Glad you could join us.
Oh, Haunted's
Thank
in the
you
house.
very much. Yeah, I slept in. I woke very, very late last night, and I needed to sleep. So I
We
woke
love
up
you, brother.
and saw you guys.
There
Thank you very
go.
much. I missed most of it though, so I don't want to talk too much.
Don't come in here and start. Yeah, don't come in here and start repeating everything we just did. Just say this: how big of a deal is LPX when compared to something like Uniswap and the innovation of liquidity in the past?
It is a market. It's a shift in how liquidity is provided in the future. People are going to be attracted to providing liquidity with LPX. Before, providing liquidity came at a cost of massive impermanent losses, no real yield. Founders had to, like myself, I put some tokens, for liquidity for the community, but I'm losing my tokens and I want more tokens. So I'm really buying at the same time as I'm losing. But now LPX, it doesn't just incentivize the founders to provide liquidity, it also incentivizes the community. And you're going to see a lot more liquidity just because of LPX, because instead of dormant tokens sitting in your wallet, you can actually make a yield and grow your bag at the same time.
Are there other products, on Ethereum or Solana or anywhere else that are like this? Like, are there other things you've seen?
Not that I know of. I've done an extensive search. The LPX is the first of its kind, from being from passive liquidity that turns into active liquidity. This is the first of its kind, and it's a market shift to how to provide liquidity. Zero products. I've done an extensive search and I couldn't find anything that comes remotely close. LPX is first of its kind.
Yeah, well, Uniswap was the first of its kind, right? It was like, holy shit, we can go off of centralized exchanges. We can now buy stuff completely DeFi. And, Hex was the trumpeter of Uniswap's success. It's like, look at what we're doing over here, guys. We're all your volume. Well, LPX is the next evolution, and Pulsechain is going to be all of the volume on LPX. And everybody outside of Pulsechain is going to look in here and go, what in the hell is going on over there? Those guys are doing something pretty special. What's this LPX thing? Well, it's pushing the price of tokens higher. We got $250,000 getting ready to buy anybody who wants to dump out of their Pulse, the RH core tokens. We're here to buy. That's what LPX is going to do. It's going to buy the dip. And the yield comes from selling high and buying low. It's a simple game.
One thing I don't know if we touched on this, Dave or Bas, I'm not sure if this was brought up, but the fee structure. So liquidity providers, basically they do incur a fee. However, the fee only comes from their profit. So the way that this is designed is such that the protocol only makes revenue when the liquidity providers are making revenue. So that's quite interesting. So because people have said, hey, in a V2 or V3 style pool, I can be a liquidity provider and I pay no fee. Well, that's true, but your tokens are out there in a passive pool, sitting duck to be taken, manipulated, and you're subjected to all this impermanent loss, which LPX mitigates. And oh, by the way, the fee that you pay for this comes out of your profit, which is it's quite interesting and quite powerful. I don't think we touched on that.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
we
I mean,
we haven't talked. Go ahead, Arch. Go.
I was just going to say whatever you think is interesting before we wrap up. Maybe the next 10 minutes or so. Like what else is interesting about this?
I'll throw in one little comment. I don't know if it's been mentioned, but LPX only trades when you're in profits. Because of that no trade zone, that's where your yield comes from. It only trades when you're in profits. And I know you asked a question about the no trade zone a little bit earlier. The no trade zone is the most powerful thing in all of LPX, or one of the most powerful things. It allows you to not trade when the noise, with the little trades or no noise, and it allows the chart or your token to move up or down. So the more volatile it is, the better your yield is. And that no trade zone is where LPX doesn't trade. So if the price goes up, and let's say you had a 5% no trade zone, the price would need to dip 5% before the LPX is activated to buy the token. And that 5%, let's say you had a $200 sell and the price came back down and you had a $200 buy, you've now accumulated roughly about 5% more tokens. So if you look at the chart that's on the screen now, you see the gaps between the last red and the first green. That's like a 5% move. If this was which one is this? No, that's 2.3. This is EX to Pulse, but that's a 5% move. And then that little buy that you had there, sell, sorry, there's in the middle. There's that one sell here where the cursor is now. That was a 2.34% move. And then it came back down. It waited for 2.3% to come back and buy again. So you see the gaps in between these buys and sells. That's the no trade zone, and that's why you make a profit in LPX. And that's what helps mitigate impermanent loss. And that's what incentivizes people to come in and become liquidity providers, because your yield is one, protecting the way the yield is structured. The no trade zone is helping you with less impermanent loss, but also giving you a higher yield with the volatile chart. Even in the sideward chart, you see it actually working. We had a 5% chart for up and up X, and you see a sideways chart, and you see those sells and buys happening, and they're micro cycles, and it's just ratcheting your profits in and compounding and compounding.
All right.
Another thing we didn't touch on, Sir David, could you touch on a world where there's many LPXs running and all of these LPXs are fluidly interacting with each other, which paves the way for a thing we call UDEX?
All right. So yeah, once we get enough LPXs internally, because right now when we execute a trade, your LPX position has to go out into a V2 position, V1 position, and it executes and grabs that arbitrage opportunity for you. There will be a time when maybe the Pulse and PulseX pair internally make a swap in here, and then it's UDEX. That's a no swap, no fee swap. You're not paying, Uniswap charges at 0.3%, PulseX charges 0.29. UDEX will have no fee when these internal LPXs are swapping amongst each other, and so then the yield for those participants increases even more, because you're not going outside of LPX to get to the top of your no trade zone and sell, or get to the bottom of your no trade and sell. So that's going to additionally amp up volume within the you get more trades in here, you get more trades on the outside, and so we bring more volume to PulseX, which will help increase the buy and burn for PulseX. And it has this additional stable coin to help push the price of all of Richard's tokens higher, and all of Pulsechain. Yeah, I mean, even the memes and everything else. We are going to revolutionize liquidity with LPX and UDEX and what's coming here. And with that, I think we're about there. Yeah,
I'm trying to think any other questions. The links are in there as well. You got the Pulsex.app links.
This is us. We have our validator link right here. You can go to our Pulsex.app. We have LPX. You can come in here and launch it. We also have smart vaults. We're built on the back of liquid loans. Not highly used right now, but that's okay. We know the problems that exist over there. Those are our two tokens if you are interested in looking at the dashboards for our tokens. And again, we're not trying to push a token on you guys today. We're trying to share with you the two yield generating protocols that we're building, that have been built for Pulsechain users. If you'd like to learn more about Up and UpX tokens and why they're going to do amazing, come on over to our Telegram room, and we'll be happy to share that with you. Again, I'm going to come back to our socials page. RH, I want to thank you for having us on. Hopefully we answered all your questions. Haunted, back to you, brother. Oh, he dropped off? You got a yawn and he had to go.
One thing I see 2EV is trying to deposit already, which is great. Awesome, thank you. But he is having some issues. I would say try a refresh, hard refresh F5. But if you still have problems, please come to our Telegram room. We will be more than happy to help you out. So don't worry, that would be solved for you.
Awesome. No, thank you all again for building on Pulsechain, and you've been around for a few years now. Various different products. A lot of them seem to be doing good for Pulsechain, solving different problems, and all that stuff too. So LPX, wow, exciting new tech as well. So excited to see where this one goes. Thanks again.
Thank you again very much. We hope to be back when we have phase 2 or phase 3, and watch us launch all the RH meme tokens and the fire and Top Hat and the Solid X index, and watch this thing go crazy.
And what's the volume of Pulsechain spike up?
Yep.
Yeah, so looking forward to much volume. Lots I don't know, lots more liquidity or lots less liquidity. I don't know which one. Which one's gonna happen in the future? If we get a lot more, then that'll be fun too. But
yeah.
All right, everyone, that's all we got for you today. Sci-Vibe and 5555. We are out.